Thank you again for everybody joining us today. I'm going to throw it over to Kitty Spires, who's going to kick us off.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and we welcome you to Friends of South Carolina Libraries Regional Meeting. It is my pleasure to greet you. This is a great number of folks this morning. We're excited about that. I am the president of the South Congaree Pine Ridge Friends Group, which is in the Lexington County system. And I will also be serving as the incoming 2022 president of Friends of South Carolina Libraries, which I'm very excited about. We've got lots of fun opportunities for our upcoming year. As you know, this is a learning experience, and we're excited that you are here with us to learn about South Carolina Libraries. And as we go through this process, I pray that and I'm saying pray because we need a little prayer in all that's going on around us these days. We trust that you're going to have several big takeaways, things that really will benefit your organization. As Marlena has mentioned, we are recording this, so we would ask that you do keep yourself on mute so that the background noise will be lesser on that audio recording. And if everybody is ready to begin, I say we begin, and Helen Ann is going to unmute herself, and now she is going to present our first speaker.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is awake. Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me? No.
Yes, we can hear you, Helen Ann.
Oh, okay, good. I couldn't tell if I'd been unmuted or not. Our first speaker today is Leesa Aiken, who is the director of the South Carolina State Library. She has worked at the State Library for over 14 years and been in a variety of positions until becoming the agency director. Leesa is active in many professional and community organizations at the local, state, and national levels. Her priorities for the State Library include creating equal access to library services for all South Carolinians. We look forward to hearing her perspective on the current state of library service in South Carolina, and I'll turn it over to Leesa.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm still watching people come in and seeing friends. It's nice to see friends in the friends group. And I think I see one director. So it's good to see you all. Thanks for having me. I'm going to show a PowerPoint, and I'm going to also ask for some grace. And let's just hope it goes well. Let's see. It should. 2 years into Zooming, but can everyone see that?
Yep.
We can, Leesa.
Great. I'm just trying to get it so that I don't have all this extra stuff. Let's see. I don't know how to get this part off on the right. Let me see here.
Leesa, I think if you do that swap thing, like it was
Up here?
Yeah, under display settings. One over.
Okay.
Yep. Click on the and then swap.
Thanks, Curtis. We still rely on Curtis, even though he's not here anymore. He's retired. So I'm Leesa Aiken. I am the director of the State Library, and it is great to be here. I'm going to go on. I noticed that your theme is a new perspective, and I am going to talk about how the support and enhancement of libraries, which I know is your vision, you can support and enhance libraries through South Carolina through connection, advocacy, fundraising efforts, and how do we continue to tell the story of the libraries. So I am, let's see there. I am a statistics person, so I just want to tell you that up front. I try to make it interesting, but I think numbers are important to helping you tell the story, your story. They're not the whole story, but you have to have the numbers in order to get buy-in, especially from the people who have the money. which is a lot of what you do, advocacy and fundraising efforts for the library. And I just went ahead unintentionally. So let's go back and try it again. How about that? Does it look like a South Carolina map on your end? Fantastic. Okay. These are the statistics from last year, so 2021, and I wanted to share those with you. These are our connection points, all of us, and I'm happy to make this slide presentation to send it to Marlena, and then she can send it out to the group if you'd like. I'm sure she has everybody's information, so don't feel like you have to take frantic notes. You can have this and to use as you want. But these are
Leesa, we'll be happy to send this out to everybody. Thank you for offering.
great. So our connection points are that we have 5.1 million people in South Carolina. I'm sure you know the last statistic, the last census numbers that the state officially used were 2010, and those were 4.8 million. Currently, there are 2.3 million library card holders in South Carolina. We have 46 counties. There are 205 public library locations. I'm going to talk about locations in a couple slides down, but there are 42 headquarter locations, 163 branches, 33 bookmobiles. We added, we're actually waiting on a couple of bookmobiles in our public libraries, but supply and demand has been sort of an issue. So we'll be adding 3 soon. There are 96 friends groups and 10,967 of you. So there are our statistics. Any questions before I move to the next one? That's who we are. Okay, this is what we did last year. Even in a pandemic, there were 10.2 million visits to public libraries last year. So if you've watched, I don't know if you keep up with the legislature or not, but if you happen to watch a presentation that I did to the House Ways and Means requesting funding for public libraries, someone said to me, one of the representatives said, well, people don't use their libraries anymore. That is factually untrue. And so I want to make sure that you have data so that if somebody says to you, people aren't even going to their libraries or their libraries weren't open during the pandemic, that's false. Absolutely false. 10.2 million visits. So that means that if everybody in South Carolina went to the library, they went to it twice. Every single person, every baby, everyone. The next bullet point is exceptionally important to me as you hear conversations about broadband. And I would have probably spoken about this the last time that we met. In fact, I'm sure I did. Public libraries are often the only access point in your community. If that's the case for your public library, know that. If you don't know, if you're not sure about the internet access in your community, talk to the library director and ask them, do you know of any other access points in our community? Last year, there were 2.1 million wireless sessions. Those do not count at all the devices that we gave for children to take home to use for virtual schooling. The state library alone gave 500 of those devices. And those could be used in a household with multiple children, or if a neighborhood, if a group of houses you wanted to use it, they could also. So that doesn't include that. These are just wireless sessions at the actual library, 2.1 million. Does anybody have any questions about that? I am free and open to people asking me questions as I go, because I think it's more important to get the information versus save it. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and just say, hey, Leesa.
Leslie, when the 5.1 million citizens, does that reflect the latest census data?
Yes, that's 2020.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions about the wireless sessions? All right, I'm just going to pause on that for just another minute because this is important, especially as the Office of Regulatory Staff, as you may know, the Office of Regulatory Staff has a new Office of Broadband that's completely a new distinct office added to the Office of Regulatory Staff. Nobody in the state, as a state agency, handled broadband or internet access. So they are working in communities using some federal money to add wireless points. And I am part of that discussion. There's a group of stakeholders who are part of that. And so we are primarily because we've been doing this. We've been talking about this. It's been a concern of ours. We know that public libraries are where people go to use the internet. We know that's where people go to access not only study materials, but health information, how to look for jobs, to apply for jobs. We had several people apply for unemployment benefits, obviously, during the pandemic. People do that at their public libraries. Any questions about wireless? All right, it's a big, big talking point. So I want to make sure that I've given you enough information so that you feel prepared for that. During the pandemic, 14,000 programs were hosted in public libraries, and there were 1.1 million attendees across our state. Summer reading is a big event for us. Usually we are around 125 to 130,000 patrons who are participating in summer reading. Last year we had 102,857. So that's a decline. I honestly thought that we would be like half that, to be perfectly honest with you, because I wasn't sure how many people would participate because I wasn't sure how many people would be comfortable going, honestly. And the hours did change, but it is a significant number. Still over 100,000 people participated in summer reading. Just to give you kind of an idea as where does that number fit? I started at the State Library in 2007, and 2007, 2008, 2009, our numbers were around 100,000. Just for some perspective. So while libraries certainly lost people participating in summer reading, it's not as though it had been at 130,000 for, the last 30 years or something. And I know that these numbers are going to keep going up. Also, public libraries, I didn't put the statistic in here, but did a lot of make and takes or activity bags for people to stop by and pick up and take home. Those people aren't necessarily logged into summer reading, but they're still accessing and using their library to help their children and themselves during summer reading. But we focus on children, especially related to the summer slide, so that they don't lose anything that they lost the prior school year.
Leesa, excuse me again.
Yes.
When you say about 3,784 programs hosted, is that in person in the library programs, or are this also online programs?
It includes online.
Okay.
Yeah, those are calculated together. And there were 88,000 people attending those summer reading programs. 3.3 million items circulated. I had to tell you, I had to double check that number, because that is double the number of the year prior. And I was like, are we sure that's what that is? And that is the number that was reported. So 3.3 million items circulated during summer reading. So while we had less people participating, people were still using their library. Any questions about this?
Leesa, Kitty
Yes.
Spires here.
I'm sorry.
How many, or do we know the statistic of how many of these summer reading programs are actually connected to schools?
I don't have that.
Is there a partnership that you know about that connects summer reading to local school districts?
So let me actually answer that in 2 parts rather. We don't collect a statistic that says, did you do this on your own or did you work with your school district to do this? We don't have that statistic. We don't ask for that statistic. And I'll also tell you, we asked for over 200 points in our annual survey. So there may be some other things we'd like to know, but we also want our public library directors to fill it out because we need this information for our federal funding. So we don't have that specifically. What I will tell you though, is that in many counties, the library works with the local school district on, I'm sorry, I just lost my word that I wanted to use on, they give a list to children for, especially in like middle school and high school, this is your recommended
A reading,
reading.
yeah, a reading
Yes,
list.
or
of
this,
sorts.
yes, thank
Yeah.
you, your reading list. That is definitely communicated. And there's a lot more communication that happens in the district with their libraries now than 10 or 15 years ago, certainly, but I don't have that as a number separate.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. I'm not great at looking at the chat. Let me just tell you that. I should have said that in advance. So if you're typing something there for me, Marlena, if you could watch that and tell me, I'm not super great at that. I'm fine.
Lisa will be glad to. This is a comment from Tricia Gordon commenting that Barnwell County Library did not have a specific partnership with their school districts. They did advertise to keep the information flowing to the students though, but they did not have a specific partnership.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lisa, this is Corina. So I kind of have a comment question slash. So I wanted to ask you this. So with the numbers that I'm seeing that we have, how does this play in with what policy South Carolina representatives and Senate, what do they put in place? I mean, I know that we don't get nearly as much funding as we would really need to be even more successful, more out there. Do they get to see these numbers to see that we actually are working hard for our citizens to give them the very best that we can, and that we do need funding for more to adequately meet those who still struggle? And also, how does this play out with, like, I know with the COVID that, you know, people aren't connected to the internet and stuff, but when COVID recedes, are we still, is the government still going to be addressing the issue of getting broadband to citizens? Because these same people still need these resources, and they will still expect for us to use our shoestring budget, so to speak, to do that. But, you know, seeing these numbers, I think should be a wake-up call for them to say, hey, you know, we really need to either be giving our librarians more resources, or we need to be putting more things in place to reach the greater people, the masses of people. So because, you know, schools get a lot of money sometimes. Well, their budgets are better than ours. We do, like Trish said, we partner with our school by telling them what we're doing, and we do partner with our we have a few private schools that do come during summer, so we do have a few regular private schools, but the public school, we just kind of give them our information at the end of school year and send it out throughout it. We have good teachers. So the teachers who work with summer reading during the summer are really good about coming to get that information to make sure that they keep the students who are in summer school aware of what's going on. So, but I would just want to know, do our representatives in government, do they get these numbers to see that we are really making a difference in our community, and that we really need their support a little bit more when it comes to funding to help us continue to do an even better job? Because for small libraries like us working on a shoestring budget, a lot of times you have to improv. You have to just kind of really find things to fit in. So
Tell me your first name again. I'm sorry.
It's Corina.
Corina. Okay. And where are you?
I am in Chesterfield County.
I love Chesterfield. Okay. Thank you so much for asking me these questions. This is my passion. I was scribbling notes and sending my executive assistant a message asking her if she could send something to me so I can show you in person. These are great questions, and this is a perfectly fine place to stop and talk about this. I think, let's see. Actually, I'm going to go on to the next slide. And so we have some different numbers up or. Okay. Let me tell you real quickly what this is. This is the Orangeburg, the pictures on the screen. This is the Orangeburg County Library. It just opened. They managed to build a new library in the last 2 years. This is outside on the playground. And it's fantastic. I wish I had a different photo to show you also. I was there on Saturday. Over on the right are 2 children making birdhouses on Saturday. They had 82 people participate on Saturday in making birdhouses.
Wow.
People are using their libraries. We know that. So let's. I accidentally muted myself. What are the issues facing public libraries? Can you hear me now? Great. A lack of understanding, the clash of the library role, space, budget, staffing, and staff morale. let's talk about a couple that Karina brought up. So policies in the legislature. Every year I participate at the House Ways and Means Budget Subcommittee, and I ask for a budget. This year I've asked for, just so you know, it's 3.5 million total. And what that money will do is bring the state aid minimum. There are 22 public libraries, 22 counties. When I say public libraries, I really mean counties. 22 counties in South Carolina who receive a minimum grant of $100,000. And the per capita amount is $2.25. The money I've asked for is to change the per capita, is to change the per capita to 225, because right now there's, not to make this overcomplicated, but there's a quarter that's stuck out in lottery money that I want to bring in to make it recurring funding. Okay. And I've asked to have the minimum changed to from 100,000 to 150,000. So that means the minimum that anyone would get would be $150,000. It's a big deal. It's a big deal in Chesterfield County. It's a big deal in Union County. It's a big deal in Abbeville, Allendale, Hampton, Jasper. I could just about name them all, but it will be about 26 libraries that'll go to 150,000. For some, that's more than than they get from their county, honestly. So that's a ask. The other part of that 3.5 million is in changing of the census numbers. I think it was Mr. Plum who asked me about the census, if this was, I believe, there are these 2020 numbers I'm using. Yes, I have to ask for the legislature to recognize the census numbers once they're certified every 10 years. And then I have to ask for the accompanying money if it changes. I tried to get out of that this year, honestly, and just say, well, can we just adopt the census numbers and I mean, you know, the money's going to change. Do I really have to ask for that as part of my budget? But I do. I was hoping the budget office might just change that, but they won't. So that's just part of the conversation that happens in the legislature. You have to have contact in your communities as well. The public library directors do. They talk about this as part of the reason I'm giving you this information. I have it individually also by your county.
So let me ask a question. I'm from York County, and we've been one of the fastest growing counties in the state for a long time. So we obviously have a lot more people than we did 10 years ago. Does that mean we don't automatically get more money, that the legislature has to specifically approve this population growth?
Yes.
And they could ignore it, in other words.
Yes. Now, I don't think they will. That is in the governor's budget, recognizing the census numbers anyway. And once you recognize the census numbers, it changes the proviso. And so the proviso is set at 2010 numbers, but I still have to ask for the budget.
Leesa,
yeah.
So let me ask you, so knowing that the census numbers, so the census number were taken during the time when I think that they are aware that there wasn't a completely accurate count of everybody. So are they making room for that? There are actually more people. Now I'm speaking from experience, so I was an actual census taker during that time, and there were lots of people who did not participate with it. You know, a lot of people were a bit skeptical. A lot of people just wasn't home. But you know, I kept up with the news and what they were saying about it, that, you know, making us aware that, you know, the number that we going to be reflecting for the census that was taken was not going to be accurate, because so many people had not been reached and gotten in touch with and completed the census. So is our government taking that into consideration for South Carolina, that there are lots of bodies not counted for?
No.
And that therefore we actually need more money?
No, they are not. The numbers are the numbers. And so they use those numbers to plan, and that's how the money is passed to us. So no, they're not. And you're right. We know that to be true, that not everybody took the census, especially because it was primarily online. And so you had to have internet access. And we know that that's the issue already in South Carolina. And then in the middle of the pandemic, you had to be able to go to the public library oftentimes. And yeah, no, they're not. This is a short answer of your question. So back to the legislature. So those local conversations are very important, and the lack of understanding I put as the first, what is the issue? What are the issues facing public libraries? Be aware of the conversations that are happening in your communities and in our state about libraries. And even if it seems like it's an extreme point of view, don't dismiss it that no one else is listening to it or that it's just absurd. Of course, people are using their libraries, right? It doesn't take long now in this political climate, regardless of where you are, for things to get much bigger and the audience to grow bigger. So it is important whenever you have an opportunity to use facts about what your library is doing in your community. Now, and let me just say, this goes to the clash of the library role. I'm sure that you've heard there about the book discussions that are happening now. What you need to know about that is that your public library board has a collection development policy, and they collect materials according to their collection development policy. The library is for everyone. If you've heard me talk ever, then I've said that the library is for everyone, everybody. We all don't agree. We all don't have the same life experiences. We're not all going in the same direction. The library is for everyone. Doesn't matter. The collection development policy is approved by the board, and then the director collects materials. There is also in every public library a request for reconsideration of a material. So if someone found something that they thought was inappropriate for the library to have, they could submit a request for reconsideration to have that material removed from the library shelves and say, this is why. So the public libraries already have a process in place related to their collection. So I just encourage you to not get in the weeds about that, about specific books and specific groups of people, etc. The library's for everyone, and the library already covers their own collection development policy, and people have a way forward if they disagree with something that's been collected. Okay, so when I hear things like morality, common standards, etc., like that's not, we're not in that business. The library is for everybody, and those are subjective. So that's where I'm talking about the clash of the library role. Now I'm going to pause here before I go to space because I want to keep answering the rest of your question. Just yesterday, we hand delivered to all of the House Ways and Means, all 124 of them, a letter. And in that letter, there was some information about public libraries in South Carolina, some kind of general information. And then there was a section that highlighted your library, your county, and some programs that they had done this last year. And it ranged from, I would say, 3 to 5, depending. And attached to that, which I hope to be able to show you, but I hadn't planned on showing it, so I don't have it handy, but I hope to be able to show it to you. I've asked for somebody to send it to me via text, but we sent an infographic. And so an infographic is a page, one page that shows those statistics I gave you for the state for your county. So your legislators know in Berkeley County, this is how many people in Berkeley County, how many people live in Berkeley County, and this is how many people visit the library in Berkeley County. This is the number of sessions they use. This is how many card holders we have. These are the materials. We even broke it out to materials borrowed like DVDs, books, ebooks, etc. So I'm happy to share those also with you all. If it comes before the end of my presentation, I'll pull one up and show you what it looks like. This is the first year that we've done that. And it's just the first of several things that we're going to do to keep.
Leesa, we've got a quick question here. Is that letter available to the public? Is that something that people in the library system could see, what was sent about their particular library system? Or
it is. Now, let me just say, what we did is new, right? And so there are 124 different representatives. So we haven't exactly figured out how to share that, because I want to make sure that the public library directors have it, especially the infographic part, so that they can reuse it. So just bear with us, because we're working on that piece of it. How can we share it so that other people can use it for their county?
we are all offering a lot of grace today. So yes, we will absolutely offer a little grace. When you have it ready, we'd love to see it, but we will, when you're ready.
Because it's not just, you think about it, you're like, oh, it's just 46 counties. Well, it's not, because representatives have a section of this county and a section of this county and a section of this county. So for us, it really is a huge undertaking, and we're a small staff. It's nobody's job. It was just an idea I had, and I pulled together a group of people and said, hey, this is my idea. Can you all make this happen and figure out what data points we use, et cetera. And they did. They're just a fantastic team. So we're still in that part, though. The first goal was to get it to the legislators and to get it there. We'd hoped to get it there last week before they started discussing the budget, but it's there. They have it. We know they have it. So that's another part of what we're doing, trying to answer Karina's point. And let's see, the other point was broadband. So I'm on this broadband committee, and not to go too far off, but just give me a second. We've been working on broadband issues in public libraries for probably 4 or 5 years. And the way that we have been doing that is to make sure that every public library in South Carolina has upload download speed of 100 megabytes per second. Okay, if you have 100 megabytes per second upload speed, you're doing pretty good. We had some libraries who were operating at 10 megabytes per second. That's like dial-up. That's the equivalent to dial-up. So we had a very concerted effort the last 3-4 years of working with libraries to get their internet access up. And then, so we were about probably, let's think about that. The pandemic, COVID has sort of made time warped in a way. So I would say, so we were about 2 years into that program. I think we still had 4 libraries left to do right before the pandemic. We finished it literally like the week prior to the pandemic. And then I'm not trying to be flippant or smart, and then other people became aware, like, oh, broadband's an issue, which, like, we've known broadband is an issue. So that was kind of interesting to me when other people became aware that, like, no, this really is an issue in South Carolina. So that office that was created, the Office of Regulatory Staff for broadband, it is going to stay in place. Okay. It is now a utility that the Office of Regulatory Staff is in charge of monitoring, just like they monitor electricity and water, et cetera. So that's going to stay in place. I just last week was talking to the person over that group, and he told me there's $600 to $700 million coming in from the federal government for to be used in communities to address the infrastructure needs for broadband and internet access. So there is a good bit of money coming. And that group who we think has access to that money, they are very aware of the areas in need in South Carolina. And that's their focus. For example, Allendale was a pilot project for them. And Allendale, I love Allendale. But it's, on I-95, it's been labeled the corridor of shame, the opportunity zone, the promise zone, several things. It has a lot of needs there. So they started in Allendale County with a pilot program. And I don't want to go too far off, but they've been able to expand internet access to a huge amount of people in that area. So I tell you that to say the people in charge of that money who are actually working on the program are invested in our small and rural and or medium-sized, because there are places in even medium-sized counties that don't have good internet access. So I don't think it's just going to go away. I think there's a good group of people who are interested in expanding internet access, and they are aware of accessibility issues and how that equates to equality and opportunity, equal access. I hope that answers your question, and I hope that I can show you an infographic before I get finished with my time.
Leesa, I'm going to jump in here real fast about the chat. I do think we have a fellow board member here for the Friends of South Carolina Libraries that's expressing some concerns about the literary skills of some of our elected officials. I think we're having a little bit of a sassy comment there.
Maybe I
But,
should read that one and not just react.
We were also
Okay, all right. I
wondering
gotta
if
see Kevin.
if we were wondering if we ever, if there was any reaction to the letters that were sent, or if it's just a little too early.
It just happened yesterday. So I would imagine they got it in yesterday's mail, yesterday afternoon's mail, probably. They may not even be opening it until today. It depends on when they were, it depends on their committees and sort of when they were in their office, honestly. So no reaction yet that I'm aware of. Now, somebody could be emailing me obviously while I'm here, but not that I'm aware of yet. The other thing, I'll just tell you, I went to Orangeburg on Saturday. I mentioned, I showed you a couple pictures. Yesterday, I was in Dillon County. We are just starting our library visits again. Usually, if I'm going to a library, something's happening there, something good or something not so great. And so they need some assistance, or there's some changes. They just need some advice usually, or like tomorrow there's a ribbon cutting actually in York County, Mr. Plum, for the new bookmobile. I believe that's what it's for. So whenever I'm going, this is a new practice of mine that's just started. Whenever I go to a county to visit a library, when I come back, I'm sending a message to their legislator to say, hey, I was just in Dillon County and here are some neat things the library's doing, and or here's something that's coming up that you might be aware of, want to be aware of. That's my intention. Let's all cross our fingers, because time is the hottest commodity for me, and I'm sure it is for everybody else. So I did send the Dylan, who's Representative Hayes, I did send him a message last night to say this is what's happening. So that's the other part. I would just make sure that you are engaging with the representatives for your county. And it's much easier to do that, I think, for me, when you have facts, when you have information, and then a couple of stories, which you'll see in a minute. I'm going to say something about collecting stories, but all right, I'm going to move on. Space is an issue at the library. You may or may not know that. My next slide is actually going to talk about construction needs. Budget is an issue, obviously. Staffing, I don't know how much you've kept up with this, but staffing just in general in places, you've probably been to places that have had to close early because they don't have anybody to work. I'm not sure what that is. I've tried to figure that out. I knew what it was, a year ago, but I'm not sure what it is necessarily now. I know that Dr. Rogers is on here, and he decided to retire from the state library after the pandemic. Several people did that. At the state library, we had 4 people do that, which is 10% of my staff. And some of those people hadn't intended on retiring before the pandemic, but then they just said, well, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next part of my life and do what I want to do. I can retire, so I'm going to do that. That's happening. People are changing their careers, etc. Staffing is an issue in public libraries. And then staff morale. You probably have seen this in your own life, maybe experienced it, that COVID took a lot out of us and is still taking a lot out of us. We are not together today because it's not safe yet to be together, right? So those are issues that are collectively facing libraries. I would encourage you to talk to your library director and say, what are the issues facing our library? What's happening here? And what can I help with, if anything? Sometimes it might just be the person who said, what can I help with? It's nice to be able to know that somebody cares. Okay, construction needed. Space, I put space. Give me 1 second before I talk about this to say, because I don't have this anywhere on a slide. Telehealth. Telehealth is a big thing during the pandemic, and it will continue to be. Congressman Clyburn, I don't know how many of you follow him or pay attention to what he talks about, but telehealth is a concern of his, and I appreciate that because he is concerned about our rural libraries, our rural communities, and people who don't have transportation. So telehealth is an issue. Public libraries don't have space to have private many public libraries, let me say that, many public libraries don't have space to have a private area for somebody to do telehealth. So when I talk about construction, I make sure to bring that point up, because it is, again, often the only connection place in a public library, the internet connection. And so our libraries are going to have to expand a little to be able to take care of these new needs that are coming. Many of our libraries, I don't know how many of you know this, but many are SEDU, the Department of Employment and Workforce. They have SEDU sites inside their library. They have maybe a DSS or a social worker or a different state agency space in their location, or they come once or twice a week. They have a schedule. So the space in the library, our population's expanded, but the space in the library is an issue because libraries are doing so much more than they used to do. You all already know libraries are so much more than books.
Leesa.
Yes.
Terry Plum again. All those numbers you have there, are those things that are taking place in or have taken place recently, or they're all needs? And if they're all needs, where did we get that where did you get that information from?
Great, thank you. And I'm sorry, my title just flew in. These are needs. And where did I get this information? I took a survey of public library directors because I wanted to know that. The reason I wanted to know that is because there was federal money available for construction. And I was working really hard for about a year, 14 months in getting federal funding through Congress. It's not dead yet, but it also didn't pass for construction of public libraries. The last time that libraries received any real construction money was around 1968, 1969. That's when my library here at the State Library was built. So there's not been any real construction money. There have been a couple little tiny pots, but this legislation, and I can, if you're interested in that bill, I can get that for you too, and I'll put it in the chat once I'm finished, would have given states, I think for us, if I remember, I shouldn't say this until I double check, but I think it was around 200 million in construction money that we could have had access to. So I wanted to know how many public libraries are in need and what are your needs. And so I did a survey. I wanted to be able to answer questions as they came to me and frame our conversation and my ask appropriately, because as I said at the beginning, I'm a data person and I think numbers speak to people and then you add your stories in. So there are 42 new libraries that are needed in the state. 64 libraries need major repair work. And so as we go through, if you added these up, there are already over 46, right? So remember, there are 205 libraries in South Carolina. Some of them might need major repair work and major technology upgrades. So this could be the same library, just keep that in mind. But 64 libraries need major repair work. One of the libraries I visited recently has a significant leak in the building, and so much so that the water runs behind the paint and makes the paint bubble out and then explodes and water goes everywhere. It's a significant leak that has to get repaired, but it's a county that doesn't necessarily have funding for that. Well, you know, if you have a leak in a library where all of your materials are compromised, not just the paper ones, your electric ones, your kits, everything. 74 libraries are in need of major technology upgrades. 75 libraries need interior renovations. And sometimes when you say renovations, people just think you want to buy new furniture. That's not what it is. Many of these libraries were built in 60s, 70s, 80s. Libby, if you have anything you want to add, jump in here, because Libby was at the State Library too, and Libby was well in charge of many of these things. And some of them, their interior hasn't changed since then. Go ahead, Libby.
Leesa, I just wanted to say that you were just preaching to the choir for me, because this is a major need. Because I was working when the last federal money was available for construction, and that only took care of the tip of the iceberg. There were major needs from that period that were not funded at that time. So,
Libby, when was that, when that little pot of money came through? Was it the
my sense of time is
okay.
terrible, Leesa.
That's okay. I was thinking that I know there was a smaller pot that came through, and I wasn't sure if it was into the 80s or 90s, but I know it's not been a major amount of money since the late 60s.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you for that. So interior renovations, don't get nervous about that. If you have to talk about interior renovations, if you're talking to your legislature, we're not talking about just buying new furniture. The furniture that they have does not function, or it's torn up because it's been 40 years since they bought it. and it's a public space. So no matter how great you take care of it, no matter how well it's built, we're talking about, 10 million visits to the library. Nothing can withstand that, All right. Also, interior renovations would include things like paint. The library needs to be inviting for people to come to it. Paint changes and you think, well, paint's $100 or whatever, $500 maybe if you have to get somebody to do it, or 1,000, or it depends on what the space is, right? That can be a significant amount for a library.
And Lisa, I'd like
Yes.
to add in terms of interior, libraries were built, but most of these libraries were designed and built around having major book collections.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just rearranging the space, redoing some walls and things like that, so that you can meet the current needs.
Libby, thank you for that. That is an excellent point. Our library looks very different than it did 15 years ago. And we used to have, we used to supplement public libraries collection with materials. We don't really do that anymore. That was a major focus, though, of the state library for a significant period of time. That's not really our business now. We do get books and we give them to public libraries, but we have a lot of electronic stuff. A lot of what we do is consulting in public libraries. These are our bread and butter, I would say. Consulting in public libraries, talking book services, and then electronic resources. That's what we do. We've tried to add cultural heritage into that so that we can collect our stories, our collective stories in South Carolina. As the state's depository, we've made a real concerted effort to reach out to various groups in South Carolina, and we are just starting that in the last couple of years. So don't judge us by what we've done so far. We've got big plans. We're working on it. We have a partnership with the Catawba Nation that I'm excited about that'll be coming. But Libby made an excellent point. The interior renovations, these libraries were built for different activities than they have now. How many people on here, and you can just raise your hand or put something in the chat or whatever, are in Richland County? Okay, Libby, a couple people. So if you live in Richland County, I do too. It's great. We have great libraries, and Curtis Hopkins. I would encourage you to go to another county and check out what they have, because Richland County's gone through some wonderful expansions. They've been able to do that. Most of our communities cannot do that. And so they are very dated in interior wise, or they can be. All right. They also need major electrical upgrades. That has to do with technology primarily. People bring in their laptops, their tablets, their phones, etc., and they need plug-in places. It just is a fact. And so electrical upgrades are needed. And I talked about expansions briefly when I talked about telehealth. Also, just they need bigger spaces because people are using their libraries. I'm not sure, Marlena, if I'm okay on time. I'm nearly finished, but am I okay?
You are doing good. We're going to
Okay,
take
great.
a short break after your presentation and give everybody an opportunity to get up and stretch before we come back. So
Okay.
no worries.
Thank you. These are the current plans. What's happening now? There are 48 building projects in the planning stage, which is good. I love it when you're in a planning stage, but also planning takes money. If you start to engage an architect, for example, that takes money to do. If you're doing more than just talking about it internally. There are also 19 actual construction projects in the planning stage. So what's the difference? A building project might be an expansion. It might be some of those other upgrades that we talked about. Construction is new construction. These pictures are of Dillon County. The one on the bottom is the Latta Library. It is one of 4 Carnegie libraries in South Carolina. It's an interesting library, has a variety of little spaces. It's actually got 4 floors because of the way that it's configured to meet accessibility requirements over the time period. I think this one was built in 1914, if I remember. And then the top photo is actually of a house being moved yesterday. And this is a house that was behind the public library, and this land was donated as part of a bequest along with some funding. But the stipulation was that this house be kept intact and moved. These are some of the things that public libraries deal with. you get money, right? Like they were left, I think, around $2 million, 2.5 million actually is what it is. And so that's exciting. You know, they get to expand their library, but there can be other complications too. Like they've got to move this house. So. All right, storytelling, advocacy and fundraising. So know your story. Talk to your library directors. Don't be afraid to talk to your library directors and know what is happening in your communities. If you're on social media, I am on social media and I am not a super heavy user. I'll tell you, this is something I work on. If you are on social media, promote your library and the events that they have going on. You'd be surprised at how many people your promotion will touch. And even if they don't live in your community, I have several friends who live out of state or even out of the country. I'm promoting libraries, right? And so that's good for all of us. So they might go see their own public library and get involved. Promote. Engage your library directors, your boards, your local government, and the people who use your library. I would also say, don't be afraid of people who say, well, I don't really go to the library. I don't use the library. Find out something about them, because the library is for everyone. And you will be able to match them up. If you know your library, you'll be able to match them up with something and say, well, you know what, the library has this really great genealogy section. Or I know you just had a grandchild, you should go by the library and check out books or whatever, or pick up a day-by-day literacy calendar. It's full of fun activities for you to do with your grandchildren. Engage people, know your legislators, and collect stories from patrons. And share those with your director, share those with legislators, share them with other people. And then what do you need from us or from me? What other questions can I answer?
Leesa, would it be possible to get information about counties that have built new libraries or had major renovations, to get detailed information, including maybe photographs of some of the things? The reason I'm thinking that is that I fear our county council is basically dominated by people who think spending money for anything other than law enforcement is wasting public resources. And I think that, without trying to overtly shame them, it would be nice to show other counties, especially library systems that are smaller than ours, that have built nice new modern libraries, because in York County, there is absolutely no talk about the adequacy of current library facilities. It's not going on the county level. It's not going on the library board of trustees level. If it's going on at the staff level, it's not being made public. So we're starting from nowhere when it comes in terms of getting the conversation going about what York County needs for libraries in the 21st century.
Okay. So a couple things there. I know that Jason responded to my survey, to the construction survey. I don't know York County's answers, off the top of my head, obviously, but they definitely have needs. And I've been to York County in the libraries. There are great statistics out of York County, and this would go for everybody. Especially, we funded two vehicles, or partially funded, I should say. So there are stories that need told there. I'm trying to figure out how to answer your question without the stories need to be told, is really what it is. County council has meetings. Sometimes there are information meetings. You can sign up to talk, at the county council meetings. It's a great time for board members or the public library director to get up and talk, but especially during budget requests, obviously, statistics are really important. I'll tell you, I made an argument in one county, they wanted to cut the library's budget. And I did some statistical research. We already had the library statistics. And I made the argument that this is an area of the county, whether it's a county department or a county agency, depends on how they look at it, right? There is no other county department or agency that has that many people from the community utilize its services. None. Not even taxes, because kids use the library too, and they're not paying taxes, and a lot of kids use the library and their parents. So it is the most heavily used county resource. So I think figuring out how to frame those stories so that they make people stop and listen is important. I'm going to read the chat because I know there are a couple of things here. FLML coordinator said lots of moms are staying home because on and off virtual school requires. It does, yes. If you know some, make sure they're using our Discuss resources, please. There are lots out there for people who are teaching, either teachers and or homeschoolers. We also have tutor.com. I didn't want to spend a ton of time talking about what we do, but we added tutor.com, which is one-to-one tutoring that's available free for everybody. Let's see, interior upgrades. Yeah, I understand that. Yes, the Bluffton branch has had some major renovations, which is good for that area too. Jimmy Wooten here in Greenville County joining in. Hey, Jimmy, thanks for joining us. Wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything else. Let me show you one thing if I may. I'm fit. Any other questions, feel free to ask me. I'm just going to change my screen.
As Lisa's pulling up her screen, I just want to let everybody know that any information that Lisa shares with us, we will be sure to share with everybody who is registered for today's event.
Let's see if I can make it. It might be, I might have to scroll on it. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Oh, I might be able to make it smaller actually. Hang on, because it's at 186. I can't. There we go. Can you still see it okay?
Yes.
All right, this is Fairfield County. This is what the legislators received for their counties. So this shows you the total population service area in Fairfield. We even added the library's logo up here. This is how many visits happened in the last year. The total library card holders, so it's about half. The number of hours they were open system-wide. How many reference questions they received. The number of households without internet. Remember, I gave you 21.5. That's a state average. In Fairfield County, it's 38.1. So if anybody here is from Fairfield County, this is important information for you to have. Kevin, did you have a question, or you just were saying Fairfield? Okay, then 17,559 items borrowed. So again, 20,000 people live there, 17,000 items borrowed.
Month at one location.
I'm sorry. Jimmy, that might be you. I don't know if you meant to be unmuted or not, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nope.
Okay. That's all right. No problem.
Text message. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And so this will also tell you the books and other print items, DVDs, ebooks. There were 59 programs held with 1,700 attendees, 46 additional programs, children and young adult items checked out. Now, let me just show you one other, because Fairfield County is small. So let's really quickly, because I think I have some people from upstate, look at Greenville, or Greenwood rather. Here's Greenwood. And I'll give you just a sec to look at it. So 26.3% of households in Greenwood County don't have internet access. 85,000 visits happened. I'm sorry, Wi-Fi sessions were done in the library. There were 69,000 people who live there. 123,000 library visits. So double that population. They have 45,000 library card holders. They were open 6,225 hours. So obviously this is different. These are different numbers than in Fairfield. It's a different size population, different system. They answered 9,000 reference questions. They had 292,000 items borrowed. If this does not tell a story to our legislators or people in our community, I just don't know what will, because here it is. These are statistics. We just try to make them look good, you know, readable, digestible. They had 123 programs. Remember, we're still in the pandemic when this happened. 6,700 attendees. And then we broke it out, children's programs, young adult programs, and we broke out the items that they borrowed. Greenwood has 4 library locations, and those are listed.
Lisa,
And
there's some
library
really positive responses to this infographic.
Thank you. I
these are
appreciate that.
wonderful.
I will pass it on too. I honestly, we are a very small staff. We have 42 people right now, and they all have other jobs. But like I said, I had this great little project team I pulled together and said, here's my idea. And they came up with it, and I just showed them some examples, and here's what we ended up with. I think it looks great too. So I appreciate that. And I will pass it on to each of them.
We've had lots of requests for potentially getting copies of this infographic. So maybe that's something that we can work with through the library directors and have that funneled down to the applicable friends groups.
You know, Marlene, I think what I'm going to try to do so that everybody doesn't have to ask different people is I'm really going to try to get them up on our website.
Oh, that'd be great.
Individually. That's our goal. Our goal is actually to have a map created for South Carolina. But before that, that's going to take a little bit of time, where you can just click on a county and then you can find out everything you want to know about that county. That's the goal. We're not there yet. We won't be there before you'll want this information. So we'll figure out a way to get this loaded so you can just pull up yours if you want, or you can look at everybody's. Can I just show you one other really quick thing? I promise this is it, Marlena. Thank you. So that you can.
No problem, Lisa.
Thank you. Let me show you as I'm going so you'll know how to get there. Okay. Can everybody see our line out front? This is our website. Once you're in our website, you could go to programs and services. Is my screen changing when I do that? Can you see that?
It is.
Okay, great. Programs and services. Under SC libraries, you can look up a ton of different information, but you can just go right down here, library statistics, click on library statistics. You can find out a ton of different information here, but if you click annual library statistics, and then you click on the last one, I'm trying not to go too fast, but also to keep it moving. It's going to bring up a very large Excel spreadsheet. Which is my computer is thinking about because it is large. There we go. I might have to share my screen again. Did the spreadsheet come up? No. Okay. Let me share that one. I want to know about. Thank you. You wanted to know about Abbeville County. Let's just say here's Abbeville County. This is all the information that we collect about this this county, and I'm not going to go through it all. I'm just going to run through it over here. The headquarters has 9,000 square feet. There's one headquarters. There are 2 branches. They don't have a bookmobile, which is true. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. They might. How many weekend hours were they open? What's their total annual hours? How many people do they have on the board? If you keep going over, it talks about staffing. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to make you get sick, I promise. This is about salaries and funding. And then if we keep going all the way over past the money, let's just say, we can see how many items are in their collection. So in their total collection, they have 58,000 items. We can keep going all the way across, and it will tell us how many people use, how many databases they have. They have 55 databases. How many adult users do they have registered? 13,000. Juvenile, 6,000. How many sessions of internet were used? Here's the children's section. Okay, it's big. So this is out there. Anybody can access this. So yeah, and then you would have the state totals at the bottom. This is information that we collect every year. As you saw, I'm sorry.
Lisa, I have a question. That data is labeled that data is labeled 2020. Is that the year that ended in June 2020 data?
It is.
Because I know that the federal numbers are labeled with a year that is a drag year. It's for at least a year behind, 2 years maybe.
Yes, and so we have, actually, Libby, that's not right. This is, I don't, oh, is it? Let me see what we just put up. This is the information we just put up.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was what it was. I just wanted to make sure that if they were saying it, they knew, if somebody were using this data, they knew that it was what year the data represented, as opposed to what year it was published, kind of
Yes,
thing.
we have, we didn't put this up yet. I've just seen it. I'm sorry, it's not published right here, but we have the 21 data. We were waiting on 2 libraries to get it up.
Mhm.
And so then that'll load very soon. But you can see there are statistics here that are loaded all the way to 2000.
Yes. Mhm.
And there's other
Good.
information here too.
Yes, wonderful information.
Thank you. But I'm going to stop there because I'm sure I'm already over my time. Marlena, I'm so sorry. I hadn't planned on going so far off script, but I hope I was helpful in answering questions.
Leesa, we appreciate your time. All of your information that you provide during your presentations to the Friends of South Carolina Libraries is always so welcome and very valuable and useful. So we really appreciate you taking the time. Does anybody have any other questions for Leesa? All right. Well, Leesa, thank you so much. We really
Thank
appreciate you coming today, and we'll look
I
for some of
appreciate
that
it.
additional information.
Okay, and I'm gonna
change-
hang on. I'm gonna stay on, and I will keep looking at the chat, and I will look if anybody sends me a message. And then Marlena I'll send Marlena a message, and she can let everybody know once the information is up. Does that sound good? Okay.
I've
Thank
changed
you.
us to Galley View. I'd like to go ahead and take a quick moment to recognize any Friends of South Carolina Libraries board members. If you're a current board member of the Friends of South Carolina Libraries, give me a wave. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I do volunteer with the Friends of South Carolina Libraries, and I am the outgoing president. Miss Kitty Spires is the incoming president. We also have another new board member on with us today. Mr. Terry Plum is joining the board next month, so we're very excited to have him. We're always looking for more volunteers and lots of additional faces to our fun activities. So if you are interested in learning more about joining the board of the Friends of South Carolina Libraries, please feel free to reach out to any of the board members that you see here today. We're going to go ahead and take a little break. So we are a little bit over. We thank everyone for their patience and time, but we don't want anyone to get muscle cramps. So we're going to take a quick break and have everybody get up, get stretched, take a bathroom break, whatever you need to do. When we come back, we will do another presentation. I will be doing a presentation on internal financial controls for nonprofits. Then we will have Miss Mary Elizabeth Land is going to give us a brief update on the 2021 Friends of South Carolina Libraries grant that she was awarded for her branch, for her library system. And then we'll do a brief overview of the 2021 awards. We have annual awards with the Friends of South Carolina Libraries, and we were not able to present them in a formal fashion. So any of the award recipients had socially small gatherings to do their awards, and we have photos, but we'd like to go ahead and recognize those individuals because they did not get the normal recognition that they would get. So we'll do a brief photo slideshow and touch on some highlights of those. So if you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're going to pause the recording and throw a slide up, and we'll go ahead and come back in, let's say, about 5 to 7 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Well, I moved to a new location during the break. I lost connection, but I'm back now. I want to introduce our next speaker, who is Marlena White. Marlena was director of the Friends of the Lexington Main Library for 15 years, and she has volunteered with the Friends of South Carolina Library since 2016. She served as the board president for several years, and as president, Marlena was an outstanding leader for the organization, making FOSSIL and its mission more visible and vital. Today, she'll be speaking about best practices for internal financial control, and I know she'll do a great job.
Thank you so much, Helen Ann. Not exactly the most sexiest of topics, but we're certainly going to try to make it a little bit of fun and give you some good information about having some good financial controls. I do have a PowerPoint that I'm going to go ahead and share. And I will also ask for some grace as I continue to move through my slides, just to make sure everything works good. I won't have great access to the chat, so I'm going to rely on my fellow Friends of South Carolina Library members to yell out if any questions pop up, or assist with any microphones that become unmuted and if there's any background noise. So thank you for that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And how does that look for everybody? Can everybody see that well? All right, hold on one second. I'm having some trouble getting my slideshow to play. There we go. Curtis, you can help out?
What do you need help with?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Thank you. All right, so can everybody hear and see that? Can everyone see the presentation and hear me speak? Thumbs up.
You're good.
Thank you. All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm honored to be here to discuss some best practices for internal financial controls for your nonprofit organization. While I'm not volunteering with the Friends of South Carolina Libraries, I am the financial services manager for a nonprofit management firm in Columbia. We provide a range of services for nonprofits, from event planning to communication to membership, and of course, all things financial. In this presentation, I will discuss some universal best practices, offer a few templates for getting started, and review the financial reporting requirements for a South Carolina nonprofit. Last, we'll open up the floor to any questions or comments. I've got Friends of South Carolina members monitoring the chat. So again, if you have any questions, you feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat and we'll have somebody call that out. A nonprofit organization must be organized and well managed and have all of their finances in order to thrive. So often, the position of treasurer is one of the hardest to fill because the responsibility can be overwhelming. As you consider how the information learned today will fit into your nonprofit, try to view it through the lens of setting and meeting a new set of standards as opposed to fixing your current procedures. When board leadership creates an environment of transparency and accountability, you may just find your nominating committee's job gets a little bit easier when looking for a treasurer. To get started, we're going to review a couple of accounting terms and some financial terms as well. The acronym GAAP stands for Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. And in the accounting industry, these guidelines ensure that reporting is consistent, whatever your business may be. This term is often associated with financial reports, phrased as, does your organization adhere to GAAP when preparing your financial reports? The four basic concepts associated with GAAP are objectivity, materiality, consistency, and prudence. If your organization is confident that your financial record keeping and your reporting is unbiased, sound, consistent, and fair, then you are following the principles and spirit of GAAP. Very briefly, I'd like to review the services a certified public accounting firm can provide for your nonprofit. The three types of financial analysis are an audit, a review, and a compilation. A compilation is when a CPA firm assists with formatting and presenting your financial reports using the material you provide them. None of the records provided by the organization are verified. Therefore, no assurances are made by the CPA other than the reports are correct using the information that you gave them. A review provides limited assurance that the financial data is accurate, as additional inquiries are made by the CPA firm to verify that adherence has been to GAAP. Any abnormalities that are found are questioned, and additional time is dedicated to the overall analysis. An audit is the end-all be-all of financial accuracy. The CPA firm at this point will inspect individual transactions at random and compare them against the backup documents. I do not want to express an opinion on what accounting services your organization chooses to secure, if any, but in the spirit of transparency, using a nonprofit organization that has an average annual budget of about $100,000, The average cost of a compilation is about $2,000. A review is about $4,500. And an audit is about $8,000 to $10,000. These services may be outside your organization's budget, but the good news is there are cost-effective ways to follow the guidelines of good accounting procedures. Later in the presentation, we'll come back to using the services of a CPA firm when we discuss annual filing. Please let me know if you have any questions along the way. I do see one in the chat here. I just want to make sure. Oh, we've got Lisa's email. Wonderful. So what are internal controls? Internal controls are financial procedures an organization maintains to keep its assets safe. The most effective procedures are those that have the greatest segregation of duties. The more people you have involved in the process, the less likely there are to be errors or opportunity for fraud. To my knowledge, there is no list of absolute rights and wrongs when it comes to internal financial controls. The best financial controls for each organization are the ones that are discussed, debated, and ultimately agreed upon by the organization's management, and most importantly, followed. Trust is an integral part of any nonprofit organization, its board, its volunteers, and the community. However, trust is not an internal control. I stole this line from a fantastic website, the Oregon Department of Justice's website page on charitable organizations. I'll include a link to that website later, as well as many others that are going to be useful. But let's restate that one more time. Yes, I did steal it, but let's restate it one more time. Trust is not an internal control. Internal controls must be viewed as a way to protect those who have access to organization funds, not as an indication that we do not trust our volunteers. In the words of Ronald Reagan, we trust, but we verify. Those who may breach our trust often do not volunteer their time specifically with the intent of committing a crime. Opportunity is the #1 reason theft in nonprofits occur. During the course of your discussion with your organization about your financial practices or potentially updating your financial practices, you may hear, are you doing this because you don't trust us or because you don't trust me? It's important to stress that internal financial controls are reviewed and updated in the present, so there's not a problem in the future. The steps you take today will set the tone for your organization's success. This is a lot of information on this slide, but I'll clarify. This is actually copied from a Word document that I'm going to make available to everyone who is registered today. So I've just copied the information from the Word document and shoved it into the slide. Before choosing and implementing financial controls, a great place to start is jotting down the basic flow of your organization's money. Where does the money come from? Where does it go? And how does it get there? I've created a basic template for collecting the financial information for your nonprofit organization. Again, this is a Word document. I'll include my contact information later. So if for some reason you don't get it or you'd like to have a copy of it sent to you, please send me an email. I'll be happy to do so. So basic information on here, just contact information for your organization, your tax ID number. The 3 here that I have, the IRS letter, the current bylaws, and the sales tax exemption, these are more checks. Do you have current copies of these? The bank name and address, a contact for whoever you're using your bank. I have the account type and account number on here. Sometimes people are reluctant to put that in a place, but I'll just have to remind everybody that your account number and your routing number are actually just on your check. So anybody you give a check to has access to that information. Of course, we hope that they don't use it in a fraudulent way, but putting your account number down isn't necessarily a bad financial practice. A corporate resolution is a very simple document. A lot of times nonprofit groups simply use their bylaws. And what they're using that for is it states who in the organization has the ability to make financial decisions. For example, open a new bank account or to request a debit card. So when you are dealing with your bank, a lot of times they will ask for a copy of your corporate resolution. Really what they're looking for is your bylaw. And what they'll do at the bank is update a corporate resolution on file And that will help them determine who in your organization is allowed to come in and make requests and changes. And just some information on here. Do you have merchant services? Do you have all your usernames and passwords in one location where you can easily access it? If you have an accountant, the information on there. And then duties. So on the form, this has actually got a bunch of lines on it. And what you can do is currently, who is signing checks? Who's opening the bank statements? Who makes deposits? Who does the budget? And so on. If the same name is listed for all of these, you may want to look at your financial controls. That's not to say that that person isn't a jam up person and a fantastic volunteer, but we don't want to have the same name doing all the duties. Any questions on collecting all the financial information for your organization? A great question here. In South Carolina, effective April 2022, will the DUNS number be replaced with a UEI, a unique entity identifiers? Janine, that's something that we're going to have to look into. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. So you're saying UEI. To my knowledge, I do not know, but I can certainly find out the answer and get back to you on it. Thank you for that question. All right. All right. So once you have all the information for all the financial information for your organization in one location, let's see one more quick. What is a DUNS number? Excellent question, Terry. An organization has a tax ID number, and that is equivalent to a social security number. Okay. A DUNS number is a little bit more linked to not necessarily a financial credit score, but it can be linked to the financial history of your organization. All organizations do have a DUNS number, and I can find the link. There's a federal website. If you Google DUNS, D-U-N-S, number search, there's a federal website where you can look up the DUNS number for your organization. There are lots of companies out there that say if you pay them, they will get you all that information. Do not pay for a DUNS number. A DUNS number is absolutely free. And you're probably wondering, what is it? Why do I even need it? If you are dealing with any federal contracts or any federal grants, they do require a DUNS number. So if you're not dealing with any federal grants or federal contracts, then you may not have come across a need to know your DUNS number in the past. All right. So once you have all this information in one place, start brainstorming, literally. Bring out a whiteboard and get with your volunteers and your board members and figure out your money trail. Talk to the people who are currently handling the money and find out how they're doing it, and then ask for ways on how it could be done better. I'm not opposed to stealing ideas and suggestions from other organizations. If you can revamp someone else's good work, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Some people who have heard my presentations before know I like to talk about the R&D department, and that's the rip off and duplicate. So during the process, you're also going to want to bring in not just your board members and your volunteers, but talk to your branch librarian and potentially your library director. Get their input on what types of financial controls they would like to see you have in place as a Friends organization. Once you have a good idea of what type of financial controls you currently have in place, and then what type of financial controls you'd like to have in place, you can start to create a roadmap for how to get from one point to another. So what should your internal controls be? Again, not every organization will have the same financial internal controls in place, but at a minimum, it is our recommendation that a nonprofit organization have at least the following: a budget. A simple budget is very fine, doesn't have to be overly complicated or fancy, and adjustments can be made. We all saw a lot of our budgets have to be adjusted in a pandemic year, but a budget in place is a must. Separation of duties, preferably at least 3 unrelated people participating actively in the financial process. Of course, that could be different depending on how large your organization is, but at least 3 unrelated individuals working within the financial process. Source verified income. This sounds simplistic, but you need to know where your money's coming in. If you're making a $500 deposit, within that $500 deposit, you're going to want to know, did that money come from book sales? Did it come from straight donations? Did it come from some sort of other fundraising activities? So verifying the source of your income. Dual counters for cash. I'm not saying at every book sale, every time you hand a change back from a 10, you have to have 2 people count that change. But at the beginning of an event, when you have cash, and at the end of an event, when you have cash, you're going to want 2 different people to count that money. I make mistakes all the time. I'm notorious for it. So it's really important just to have somebody, mistakes can happen. It doesn't mean necessarily there's fraud, but a mistake can happen. So have 2 people count the cash at the beginning and 2 people count the cash at the end. Controlled disbursements. This is just a fancy way of saying, who are you paying? You know, is there a procedure in place for when you pay somebody? Dual signatures on a check is going to be the gold standard. 2 people signing off on a check before it's presented to anybody. That can be sometimes a burden depending on the size of the organization. But there are other ways to put a paper trail in place. So it's more than just, hey, can you write a check to so-and-so? I'll tell you why later. A defined reimbursement procedure. Again, a standardized form is very simple. You can get this off of Word or Canva, but if you're reimbursing any of your volunteers, you're really going to want to have a standardized form in place for who you paid, when you paid it, why you paid it, and the check that matches up to that. Receipts are a must. I know sometimes we lose receipts, but we really do need to keep our receipts if we're requesting a reimbursement. Reconciling your bank accounts monthly. Again, sounds simplistic, but we're going to want to keep up with that. You definitely don't want to have 3 or 4 months having piled up when you've not reconciled your bank account. Because if you've not done that, it means that you probably haven't reported to your board. So reconcile your bank accounts on a monthly basis and then get that information to the board. We're not all meeting regularly, especially because of COVID, and some organizations like the Friends of South Carolina Libraries probably will remain meeting via Zoom as our primary form of communication. But that doesn't mean that you can't email out monthly reports to your board and let everybody know how your finances are doing. Annually, you're going to want to update the membership, your general membership, on how your finances are doing. And then participate in an annual review. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. How to do an annual view of your organization with maybe not the exorbitant cost of hiring a CPA firm to do a audit, compilation, or review. And lastly, you're going to want to keep your paper records for 7 years. I'm a big fan of a big binder. Big binder, 12 months broken up, bank statements, followed by your receipts, followed by any other backup. Keep it for 7 years. You can stack it nice and neat. Maybe the library will give you a nice space to keep it clean and dry. Hold on to it for 7 years. And when you're done, after 7 years, you shred it. All right, I'm going to talk about something real fast that is a very unpopular opinion. I'm going to talk about a debit card. Nowadays, in today's society, and with the way everything is going, and lots of things are with purchased by credit card, or a credit card is required to secure some type of service or product. A lot of organizations, nonprofit organizations included, have a debit card. A lot of people don't like this. They're afraid that it can get mismanaged, and it can. But there are a lot of benefits to having a debit card or a credit card associated with your nonprofit organization. If you choose to have that, especially if you're an organization where you're finding, if you're reimbursing volunteers 8 to 10 times a month for purchases because they needed to use a debit or credit card for that purchase, you may want to consider having your organization get one. A credit card is a great option because you have a month cycle to let that charge sit there, so you can dispute it if needed, or you can verify before the statement is paid. Having it come directly out of the bank account can be a little bit scary, but I do know a lot of nonprofit organizations that do have a debit card. They have not had issues. It's just kind of it can be a touchy subject, but I personally don't have if you have good financial controls in place, I personally do not have a problem with a nonprofit organization having a debit card, especially in today's non-paper world. So any questions? All right. Oh, I jumped ahead. All right. Well, anyway, that was gonna be my big reveal. But once you have agreed upon a set of internal controls for your organization, I recommend you put it in writing and then you vote on it. Putting it in your minutes means it's real. This also ensures all the volunteers involved in your organization understand the role, and it provides a mechanism for maintaining the procedures in the event there is a change in leadership or personnel. Because financial controls are detailed, it may not be ideal to put them as part of your bylaws, but rather in a separate financial policy and procedures manual. Manual sounds kind of scary, so let's use the word document instead. A one-page document listing your nonprofit's financial controls is sufficient. And then this was supposed to be my slide. So now you can proudly say that your friends group has a financial policy in place. Maybe it's not easy as magic, but for all you Harry Potter fans out there that are getting my little joke here, remember, solemnly swearing you are not up to no good is still not a good financial control. So, all right, Harry Potter jokes done, I promise. All right. So next we're going to talk about how can your nonprofit have an annual review on the cheap. It's a good thing that we're all friends today, because I'm literally going to suggest you find a friend. Partnering with another nonprofit of equal size in your community is a great way to review each other's financials. This may lead to actually some pretty beautiful partnerships. You may also want to talk to your library director about a library staff member who may be willing to help out. Even asking fellow board members in your organization who do not have regular access or interaction with the financials to review your records is an added layer of protection. So what we have here is a template that was created by none other than Friends of South Carolina Library's very own outgoing treasurer, Miss Libby Law. This is a document that was created for the annual review of the Friends of South Carolina Library's finances. Some very basic information on here, but what it is when several board members will come and meet, they will review the treasurer's finances, ask questions, and using that information, make a general assessment of the overall health of the organization. I'm going to go ahead and this is everything that was on the Word document thrown up into a PowerPoint slide. The document is one page and it has significant space for writing, for signing off, for signatures, for including information. I'm going to go ahead and send this out to everybody who was registered for the event today, and you're welcome to ask any questions if anybody has any questions on this. Again, very simple document, and it's basically just an opportunity to look at your year, go through. You can choose, I think we chose about a dozen transactions throughout the year. And again, this was 2 board members who were going through Libby's books and just making sure, okay, did this check match this transaction within the bank statement? I'm going to check in here. Well, you are very welcome. All right, so anyway, just a great way to add a layer of protection to your organization, just to have open transparency. We are comfortable with people looking at our transactions. We're comfortable with people looking at our books. And it's not the added protection of having a CPA firm do it, but it's certainly a little bit more cost effective for our library friends groups in South Carolina. So I had some side notes, and I actually did a slide just for my side notes. So sorry, a little sassy there. A couple of side notes I'd like to mention. One is that having sound finances is not equivalent to having a large bank balance for your organization. Be proud of your group, of what you have earned, and how your organization has been a good steward for the funds donated. So if you are sitting down with another organization and you have agreed to audit each other's books, finances for the year, try not to get too bogged down with how much money they have and how much money you have. We're all in this together to support our nonprofits. Again, a big bank balance does not necessarily mean sound finances. Also, be mindful of paying someone who is not a professional to review your books. In South Carolina, we certainly want to thank people for helping us out, but small gifts are maybe a little bit more appropriate, as opposed to writing a check to someone in your community or to another organization for having audited your books. Perception is everything. So again, small gifts of gratitude are appropriate. Stay clear of actually paying someone. In the case of the 2021 financial review for the Friends of South Carolina Libraries, I'm told there was a delicious lunch of vegetable soup served to all those volunteers. And in my opinion, I think that's a very fair trade. All right, so one more side note. All this hard work put into your internal financial controls will pay off. Nonprofits with established financial procedures will be in a better position to apply for grants or corporate funding. Many of you may be aware that large businesses and corporations are only allowing nominal giving at the local store or branch level, maybe a $20 gift card. If you want to do the big ask, you're going to have to apply through a corporate portal system, and all the information that we discussed here today is going to be needed. If you're looking for some more information on how to be grant ready, have no fear. I also do presentations on grant readiness, and I work really cheap, like really, really cheap. If you say please, I will just do a presentation for you on grant readiness. All right, no more side notes, I promise. So this may be the point in the presentation where you're saying, well, this is great, Marlena, but what am I required to do? I wish I had a really firm answer for you here. And this is not an area where you would think there would be some ambiguity. But to my knowledge and understanding, there is no set of financial controls required for South Carolina nonprofits. There are best practices and general guidelines, but not one size fits all checklist. That is not to say that South Carolina Friends do not have filing obligations. 501c3 nonprofits in South Carolina are required to complete 2 annual filings. One is the Irs Form 990. This is basically a tax return for your organization, tells the federal government how much money you took in, if you spent that money in the pursuit of your organization's mission. If your nonprofit has annual gross receipts of $50,000 or less, it is eligible to file a Form 990N. This is commonly known as the postcard form. It's gone digital in the last few years, but commonly known as the postcard. It's easy to complete, and it only asks 8 pieces of information. It basically tells the IRS, we're still here, we're really small, please don't harass us. If your nonprofit has annual gross receipts, between $50,000 and $200,000, you're required to file a Form 990EZ. This form has some more information on it, including a list of board members, organization mission statement, general activities, and a breakdown of income and expenses. My personal recommendation is if your organization falls in this gross receipt bracket or higher, so $50,000 or higher, it would be my personal recommendation that you hire a CPA firm to prepare your 990. In my experience, it isn't a terrible cost, anywhere from $300 to $750. But if your organization is taking in funds of more than $50,000, not saying you have to outsource all your bookkeeping, but you may want to have a professional CPA handle your 990. Because that, once you get over $50,000, the Form 990EZ is public information, and that can be pulled by anybody. So you do want to make sure that that's handled properly. The other requirement for a South Carolina nonprofit is to update their information with the South Carolina Secretary of State. This is done 4.5 months after the end of the nonprofit's fiscal year. For most of us, this happens on December 31st, so we're required to file by May 15th. 4.5 months, why? I'd have no idea. This is done online, and it costs $50. Actually, it costs $51.85 because of the additional service fee, but close, $50. The information that's required is updated contact information for your nonprofit. It makes you review your mission statement to make sure it's still accurate, provide a list of board members, and include financial information. So if you've been required to file the Form 990EZ, you simply upload a copy of that, and that serves to provide the financial information. If you've filled out the 990N, there is a very simple form that you do need to fill out. I'm going to stop my share for a minute. I'm going to go into the form. There it is. This is the very simple form. If your nonprofit has $50,000 or less in gross receipts a year, this is the financial form that you fill out for the South Carolina Secretary of State. So as you can see, it has a lot of different information here. If you're wondering how
we can't see the form.
you cannot.
No.
We don't see that.
All right, guys, hold on. I got it. How about I do this? How about that?
Yeah, we see that.
Perfect. So this is a very simple form. And when you go online, it's going to ask you to upload your financial form. Well, if you've got less than $50,000 in gross proceeds, you've not filed a Form 990EZ, so you don't have all of this in one place. This is the document that helps you prepare this. It's a very simple form. And the reason I like it, and I wanted to bring it up to you today, is because if you're filling this out on an annual basis, you've already got the ball rolling for getting your finances in order. This is a great snapshot of how your organization is doing. Keeping this on file, this is a great document. I just wanted to bring that up there. All right, so I see what I did now. What I did is I stopped sharing entirely, not just my PowerPoint presentation. All right, so does everybody see my PowerPoint presentation again?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so moving right along and getting close to the end. Thank you to everybody for sticking it out with me here. Let's talk about Techsoup. If your nonprofit is currently using Techsoup, feel free to mute me or go grab a snack. If not, I need you to turn up the volume. Any 501c3 nonprofit may create a free account with Techsoup. They are a gateway for corporations to donate deeply discounted technology software like Adobe, Microsoft Office, and QuickBooks to 501c3 nonprofits. For example, I recently secured a version of the 2021 QuickBooks desktop version for a nonprofit organization for $78. It is a very discounted rate. That version does not come with the updates required to run payroll through QuickBooks. However, if you're not running payroll through QuickBooks, you don't need the updates. So $78, a version of QuickBooks typically will last an organization about 5 years. So $78 divided by 5, that is a great deal. So if you're currently running your organization's books using Excel or very simple software, I would highly recommend you consider switching to a program like QuickBooks. It does make everything a little bit easier and pretty easy to control when you are reconciling those bank statements regularly through QuickBooks. So the best financial controls for each organization are the ones that are discussed, debated, and ultimately agreed upon. I know I mentioned this earlier, but those are the best financial controls, the ones that your organization believes is best, that have been debated, discussed, voted on, and approved, and then ultimately actually used. You want to make sure you're using your financial controls regularly. So now that you've done all the hard work of organizing and documenting your organization's financial information, you are well on your way to tackling some new opportunities, like getting grants or getting additional funding. So any questions? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and leave that up for, I'll continue to check the chat for any questions. Here's some additional resources that I think are really useful for nonprofits if you're doing some research about financial controls or financial management. The National Council of Nonprofits is a fantastic resource. I would definitely recommend any nonprofit group take a look at their website, not just for financial management, but for a lot of other different information. The Internal Revenue can be a little hard to navigate sometimes, but of course they do have valuable information on charities and nonprofits. The Secretary of State page about charities. If you're curious about looking up any charities, you can actually do so on the South Carolina Secretary of State's page. And then I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what's going on in Oregon and who is doing their Department of Justice website, but it's phenomenal. There is so much good information on the Oregon Department of Justice charitable activities page about financial controls specifically for small nonprofits. I would highly recommend you check that out. I really appreciate everybody listening to my presentation. I hope it was helpful for your organization. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm really easy to find. I am on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm probably posting cat videos, but I am on LinkedIn as well. Not as much as probably Facebook, probably not as much as I should be.
Marlena, I don't have questions, but I got a couple things to say. One is that when I was in Hilton Head Island many years ago, we had a case where the president of our nonprofit embezzled $36,000, and it was devastating. And none of the kinds of controls that you're talking about were in place. So I appreciate that. Secondly, for the Friends of the Library in New York County, Friends of New York County Library, we have a position in our bylaws called Financial Secretary, which is an addition to the treasurer, which automatically gives us a second person to look things over. But also it's very handy because sometimes the treasurers, they turn over. Financial secretary has been there a longer time, but that person handles the deposits and writing checks. In our case, we live in a big county, so if the treasurer is from Clover or York, it's not easy for them to get to the bank or to get to the post office to check to check the mail, see if there's checks or bills. So that's a split responsibility, and not always having the treasurer to do every bit of it. The third thing is, and I don't have it anymore because I'm no longer president of the Friends of York County Library, and I turned my credit card in, but we have a credit card, one for the treasurer or financial secretary and one for the president, from a credit card issuing company that provides a free credit card for nonprofits. I don't know the name of it, but I could find that. But we don't do a lot of credit card purchases, but it's nice to know that when we do, it's not costing us anything. And so it's a fairly easy process to get that credit card, and I can get that information and pass it along if it's helpful to anybody.
That would be wonderful, Terry. I really do appreciate it. I love the idea of a financial secretary. I've jotted that down. Credit cards can be a little tricky because, they want to, you do need a credit report in order to get a credit card. And a lot of nonprofits don't necessarily have a financial credit history. So I would be very interested to hear a little bit more about that company. Thank you for sharing that. All right, any other questions? I do appreciate everyone's patience and time today. I know it's getting close to the lunch hour, so we're going to move pretty quickly through the last portion of our presentation today. Again, if anyone has any questions, they can always reach out at a later date and we can follow up. We're also available, hopefully in person, to hit the road. If anybody has any requests for presentations, Friends of South Carolina Libraries is happy to do some research for you and see if we can't find a great speaker to cover the topic that you're interested in. So next, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Mary Elizabeth Land, the director of the Abbeville Library, and she is going to talk about the grant her library system received from the Friends of South Carolina Libraries last year. So Mary Elizabeth.
Hi, everybody. Let me start my video. Good to see you all, and I thank you so much for sharing all that good information this morning. I won't talk too long, but I really just wanted to kind of update everybody. The Abbeville County Library System did receive the stipend from Friends of the South Carolina Libraries. We were so appreciative, and we're using it to do a couple of really exciting things. The first is that we're going to have a little free library right outside our library. And that might seem like an odd choice, but we are fine free completely, but we do have situations sometimes when, a parent might bring their kids in and the kids are excited about getting library cards, or they're excited about taking books home. And then we find the parent has, honestly, sometimes huge fines that we need to deal with and that sort of thing. So having a spot where we can say to particularly a child, go out, pick any book you want, you get to take it home, you get to keep it. We're excited about that prospect. So right now, my office, if you could see, is kind of a mess because we've been putting aside books that we think would be good options for that. And so we're using it's a $250 grant that we got from Fossil. We're using some of those funds to put in a little free library. And our mayor actually has been helping us with that. We're very excited about being able to do that project. The other project that we're going to do with that $250, and this will cost more than that, but we're going to do several story walks throughout the town of Abbeville. And we're working with our town administrator is fantastic. And they just ordered new equipment, like sports equipment, for all the different parks. And so we're going to put in story walks at those different parks as they get new, swings and that kind of equipment. We'll also be putting in story walks. So that's what we're using those funds for. And I want you to know how much we appreciate it, how much good I think we're going to do with it. you know, for us, it's all about literacy. It's all about trying to reach kids who might not have those options otherwise. And so we thank you so much for the funding. Also, I think that you maybe are going to talk about the other thing that Friends of the South Carolina Libraries has done for us lately was when you were choosing the giving the Employee Excellence Award, the Fairfield County Library System
We are, Mary Elizabeth. We're going to go ahead and do a quick presentation to recognize everybody who received an award in 2020.
fantastic. Well, Lois is actually here. I don't know if you want her to step in, but we did have a little thing here at the library for her, but I'd love it if she could join in with y'all as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much about providing an update on the Friends of South Carolina Library grant. If you'd like more information on that grant, I'm going to go ahead and put our email address to the Friends of South Carolina Libraries in the chat. If you're not getting our current newsletter, please email us and give us your email. That way we can get you signed up to the newsletter. So we're going to have some information going out in the newsletter shortly about grant opportunities that are going to be available in 2022. So I don't have a list of exactly of what I don't have it in front of me, but it's activities that are promoting literacy in your community, re-energizing a friends group, updating a friends group's technology capabilities. There's a lot of different avenues and how you can apply for up to $250 from the Friends of South Carolina Libraries. So, and again, if you're not getting our newsletter, please email us and let us know, and we will get you added to the newsletter list. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Can I add a couple notes about Little Free Libraries?
Sure.
I had the first one in York County, and we have quite a few that have come on since then. There's probably 50 or 60 in the county. A lot of them are public schools. The one issue with Little Free Libraries is that they're like having a pet. A lot of people are really interested in when you first get them, but if you take one on, you got to be prepared to maintain it. And there are a lot of Little Free Libraries I know of that are not well maintained. The doors get busted or something, and the sponsoring organization or person that put it up sort of lost interest in it. It's a special problem with civic clubs and things like that, because one year's president may be a big supporter of Little Free Library, and next year the next president wants to move on to something else. So they are a long-term commitment. They're not terribly hard to maintain, but you need to plan on being with it. Secondly, is we've had a real problem with disposing of books, and nobody likes to talk about it. The libraries, my experience is that they don't want to be shamed for throwing away good books, but the libraries do have places to send books if they're in really good shape, or there are certain kinds of books. Thrift books is one, but we've found that books were going into the landfill because they weren't of pristine quality. These are library discard books. And so I have an arrangement with the York County Library where I will pick books up that are a little bit, tacky maybe, or a little, but people have underlined or something, and they're perfectly fine for Little Free Libraries. These are fairly recent books, bestsellers even, that aren't suitable for thrift books, but people who are getting them for free aren't that picky. So you might want to look into that as the source of books that we have a Little Free Library. There is, if you are a member of the Little Free Library and your box is certified as opposed to just putting one up, which is fine. But if you get that license in effect, Little Free Library, there is a website for Little Free Library stewards, which has a lot of good information that you can share with other Little Free Library stewards. That's all.
Thank you,
Thank
Terry.
you, Terry. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's some great information. Thank you. Little Free Libraries are super popular, but you're right. If you're going to get one, you do need to commit to maintaining it. So thank you for that information. All right, so I am going to attempt the screen share again. Let me just go ahead and make sure I've got this up and ready to go. Awards slideshow. Okay. Again, thank you everybody for your patience as I work through my technology. Share screen. Okay, Can everybody see the slideshow here? All right. I'm not hearing no, so I'm going to take that as a yes. If anybody is familiar with Canva, this is something that we created very simply on Canva, C-A-N-V-A. That is a great resource for nonprofits to get some very free or really reduced cost social media graphics and technology. So, all right, so we never had an opportunity to do an official 2021 Friends of South Carolina Libraries award presentation. So this is going to serve in lieu of that. The Friends of South Carolina Libraries is honored to recognize the individuals and friends group who have gone above and beyond for South Carolina libraries. That is not what you, there we go. All right, the first award up is the Outstanding Friends Group Award, which recognizes a South Carolina library friends groups whose contributions to the support and advancement of their library have been outstanding. In 2021, this award was presented to the Friends of South Congaree Pine Ridge Branch Library in West Columbia. During the span of 1 year, the Friends of South Congaree Pine Ridge created 2 scholarships for local high school seniors in honor of their branch librarian, Miss Carol Clark, established a program to give books to local first grade teachers to increase their classroom libraries, held a drive-through celebration in lieu of the annual branch birthday party, held an outdoor book sale in October of 2020. This was important because it was one of the first in their areas to hold an outdoor book sale, and it really set the tone for future book sales in that area. Applied for and received one of only 3 South Carolina CARES Act grants awarded to library friends groups in South Carolina, one of only 3. Started a paver stone fundraiser at their branch and helped to coordinate a gathering of all 10 library friends groups in Lexington County via Zoom. That's just to name a few, and all while navigating a pandemic. So congratulations to the Friends of South Congaree Pine Ridge Branch Library. The John Landrum Advocacy Award recognizes individuals whose advocacy, support, and encouragement have been critical in recognition of the library, the value of library services and ensuring that South Carolina public libraries remain prominent and vibrant institutions. The 2021 John Landrum Advocacy Award was presented to Mr. Andy Flint, Director of Information Services for the Spartanburg County Public Library. In the spring of 2019, Andy took on the monumental task of helping to promote the upcoming census in Spartanburg County. From May 2019 until September 2020, 82 separate community events were hosted around the county in an effort to help promote the upcoming census. Andy personally spoke to city council, town councils, and multiple other gatherings of business and local government leaders to discuss the complete county committee's promotion efforts. Every person not counted in the census represents $2,600 in missed funding, or a total of $2,600,000 over the next 10 years. Based on the impact of the census, Andy's work has increased public awareness and has contributed to improvements in funding and resources available to the state of South Carolina that will directly impact not only public libraries, but other public institutions as well. Congratulations, Andy Flint. The Outstanding Individual Award recognizes an individual who demonstrates activities that support and advance the mission of South Carolina Public Libraries. The 2021 Outstanding Individual Award was presented to Ms. Catherine Harvey, principal of New South Collective. She was nominated by the Spartanburg County Public Library. Working with several other agencies, the Spartanburg County Complete Count Committee was formed to encourage and promote completion of the 2020 census by all Spartanburg County residents. Catherine was asked early on after the creation of the committee to help with creating ads for the upcoming census promotion campaign. During the course of the weeks and months that followed, she and her company created ads for billboards, bus signs, yard signs, newspaper ads, social media posts, and flyers for community events. She also helped with in-person events and coordinated many of the articles and television coverage that took place during the course of the campaign. Special recognition to Evelyn Parks, who began her career with the Spartanburg County Public Library 45 years ago. Her role with the libraries has evolved since 1975, leading her to serve for the last 18 years as the Homebound Volunteer Coordinator. In this position, Evelyn is tasked with managing the Homebound program for the libraries that deliver books to patrons who are unable to leave their homes for various reasons. Evelyn has been called to a life of service, and she has used this calling to create relationships with all walks of life in her community. Her 45 years of service is 1/3 of the library's 135-year history. It is impressive to reflect on the many lives Evelyn has touched. In short, she is an amazing woman. The Employee Excellence Award recognizes exemplary performance by a library staff member. In 2021, we were honored to present 2 Employee Excellence Awards. The first winner was Miss Lois Rhodes, the Library Services Coordinator, nominated by the Abbeville County Library System. This is a direct quote from her nomination letter. Lois Rhodes is the epitome of an excellent library system employee. In her years with us, she has been promoted 3 times, becoming a full-time branch manager, then the Support Services Coordinator, and now Library Services Coordinator. Her ability to master every stage of her career is a testament to her skills and her personality. Lois always welcomes the opportunity to learn new skills. Most recently, she has taken on the filming and editing of virtual programming. She comes to work every day ready to help and ready to add to the positive feeling of the library. We are a more successful organization because of her.
And I'd just like to say, I have Lois Rhodes here with me. We, everything I said in the nomination letter is as true today as it was then. We are thrilled every day that she is part of our team. She is actually right now fighting an alarm that's going off. So in true small library world, you know, you do whatever needs doing at the moment. So I just am so grateful to have her here, and so grateful to the Friends of the Library for appreciating and accepting her nomination.
Well, thank you so much for recognizing her today, and we hope we get that alarm taken care of. But I do think that's pretty indicative of how wonderful an employee she is. She ran off to get the alarm. So congratulations again, Lois. The second Employee Excellent Award presented in the 2021 year was to Miss Tricia Gordon, the library manager, and she was nominated by the Friends of the Barnwell County Library. This is a direct quote from her nomination letter written by Miss Sally Gill, Barnwell County Library Friends President. Barnwell Library Manager Tricia Gordon has demonstrated excellent leadership in the conduct and improvement of library programs and services for the libraries of Barnwell County. Her enthusiasm is infectious and her energy unbounded. If anyone has ever asked why not, it is her. Her ability to create new ways to reach and serve patrons and the public is unsurpassed. Congratulations to Tricia. All right. The Outstanding Public Official Award is intended to recognize public officials whose activities have provided a positive impact on libraries in South Carolina. In 2021, the Outstanding Public Official Award was a joint nomination to Mr. Bobby Kiesler and Mr. McLean R. Toole. Bobby Kiesler, Lexington County Council representative from District 5, worked with Lexington County, the Lexington County Library Board, the Lexington County Delegation, and the Lexington County Recreation and Aging Commission to secure the land where the library sits today at 200 Sunset Drive in West Columbia. He made sure that the progress for the building moved quickly. Even after the library building was completed, Mr. Kiesler worked diligently to ensure that the safety of local second grade students who walked across the street from the school for a special bi-monthly story time. Concerned for their safety, he worked through and with all the government agencies to have a sidewalk constructed so that these children would be safe. Also included in this nomination and award is Mr. McLean R. Toole. In the planning phase of the library, local South Carolina House District 88 Representative McLean Toole worked to secure funding from the state of South Carolina that was used to purchase the initial book collection for the South Congaree Pine Ridge Branch Library. Without this funding, other needed areas would have been lacking. McLean has been and continues to be an avid supporter of the library. His support for children's programs has been invaluable to their success. I do also think that Miss Kitty Spires is on the meeting with us today. I want to say there was a story in that nomination letter of Mr. Toole kissing a pig in support of the local library if the kids read a certain
True.
amount of books. So
Yes, very true.
he went above and beyond. Surely we can give him an award for going above and beyond. So congratulations to all the 2021 recipients. Nominations have now closed for the 2022 year. Those will be discussed and decided on shortly, and those awards will be presented at the annual conference on Saturday, March 26th. That event is going to be held with a limited number of people in person at the Wando Mount Pleasant Branch Library, and also a virtual option will be available. So again, congratulations to all of our award recipients from last year. We're sorry we could not present them all to you in person at one time. This has been a lot of information today, and I know y'all are tired of hearing my voice. So I'd like to say thank you. And thank you for allowing me to speak today and give that presentation. I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Kitty Spires, incoming president for the Friends of South Carolina Libraries, to do the closing.
Thank you, Marlena. Great presentations. Oh, excuse me, my voice left. I know that we all have learned lots of information today. The recording will be up in several days, so make sure that you connect on our website and then go to the YouTube channel. And as Marlena mentioned, our conference will be March 26th. We will be able to visit the beautiful new branch, Wando Mount Pleasant, a part of Charleston County system. Open registration will be happening shortly. We hope possibly later this week. Fees will be $25 in person, $15 for the online version like we're doing today. Another thing I'd like to mention to you is that if you haven't renewed your membership for 2022, whether it's personal or your group membership, you can access the website and do that as well. Also, if your organization would love to host a regional meeting like we're doing today, please let us know. And I think Marlena put the email address for the fossil president in the chat. You can go to that, and she's helping me here. Go Marlena. You can go to that and just send us the information that you would like to share, and we will get back in touch with you. Does anybody have any other comments, questions, or concerns that you want to bring to the group today? It's been great. Leesa, thank you so much for your information. Everything that you do is so very much valued for libraries. And we, like I told you privately, we as friends need to tell these library stories. Okay, that's the best way in the world to get people to listen and know the needs that are prevalent. I mean, in my own little branch here in South Congaree, Pine Ridge area, we could use triple the space that we have. And it just isn't going to happen without the stories being told. Got to get that story to the right people. So any other ideas or suggestions, Leesa, that you would have for us, please email us and we'll get that information disseminated to everyone. Anything else you want to say?
Thank you so much. I sent Marlena my slideshow, and we will have the map up probably by Friday. I'm sorry, not the map. We'll have the information, the infographic up by Friday for each county.
That's
Marlena,
awesome.
I'll send Marlena a message, and then she can message the group. Thank you so much for having me.
That's an awesome piece of information for everybody, because that will also help you tell your story.
Yes.
Very much so. Thank you so much for coming and being with us today. We started out with a good number, I think about 37, and we still have about 2/3 of that group on here, and I know everybody's busy and lots of things going on. So we hope to see you register for Mount Pleasant Wando Branch, our state annual meeting, where lots of positive things will be going on. That information will be up on our website soon, and you should be getting another newsletter shortly with that information in it. Marlena.
Thank you. Yeah, we hope everybody can join us on March 26th, whether it's in person or virtual. We appreciate everybody joining us today. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you. It's great to see everybody.